Hi, this is my review of the Xenyx 1202 FX by Behringer. This is the mixer. On the left side are mono inputs for mics and other mono related devices. This first port here is where my mic is plugged in, and I have 3 channels I'm not using. This is my mic. It's a Sony, and there's the cable. It goes down there and around and connects into there. This is just a standard microphone connection, which you can see plugs in there. You could also use a 1/4-inch input in the slot below it if that's what you had. The knobs here control the equalizer controls for that channel. Each channel has similar controls: equalizer, FX, pan, and the level for that channel. So 4 monos. Over here are stereo inputs. These take standard 1/4-inch inputs, so you can use a 1/4-inch to RCA connector converter like this, if that's the kind of cables you have, or you can use just regular 1/4-inch. This is my headphone input, jack for that. And these are the controls for the stereo, the 4 stereo inputs. So a very nice setup. 8 convenient inputs, easily controlled from the front panel. Now what I'm going to show here is my use of my one of the stereo connections. This is in the 4th channel. This is connected to iPhone or anything that's a mini jack. So left, right, split out. The level's controlled by, again, the gray with white tip knob. That corresponds to that channel. Second channel controlled by this set. Third channel controlled by that set. And then the 4th is controlled by this set down here. This is the mini. So I have it plugged in here to my iPhone. This is convenient because it allows you a lot of flexibility of using any kind of audio input. And I'm just using my iPhone, which of course has a number of MP3s and access to iTunes and Napster, whatever. So you can really hook up any kind of MP3 or any kind of audio output and input it into one of the stereo channels. And you do want to connect it into a stereo channel, not to the mono, or you'll lose the stereo effect, obviously. So next to that connections are these input and outputs, left, right, breakout. That I have connected to this device, which is a Behringer USB audio adapter. This basically is like a sound card, albeit external. And these are the inputs and outputs. Input on the left, output on the right. And these are connected to the corresponding output and inputs on the controller. That is the cable to the USB, which goes to the computer. And that's connected in here. These are labeled tape CD input outputs. But I chose to hook it up this way so I could interface the mixer directly to the computer this way. There's a number of ways you can configure a mixer. You could go to the line in, line out of the onboard sound card of the PC, but I chose to use this method. So that's why I'm using the CD tape in-out connections for this purpose. This button controls the routing of the signal from the CD tape out to the mixer. This is the effects, the built-in effects control. There's a number of effects that you can apply, reverb, etc. And that can be applied to any or all of the channels. So that is a nice feature of this box. This knob controls the level of effects that's to be applied to that channel. This controls the overall effect that should be applied. This is the main volume. That's the main fader slider. In this example here, I have my iPod with an album from Leona Lewis, and here I have Audacity loaded up. Again, the fourth one here is what my iPhone is hooked up to, the fourth stereo input. And I'm just pointing out where it's connected again, goes into there. And I just chose the fourth stereo channel. You could have chose the first stereo channel, second or third. It doesn't matter, just however you wanted to do it. Obviously, if you had 4 devices hooked up, that would be very convenient. Now I'm going to just do a little example. I'm playing Leona Lewis from my iPhone, and it's running through the mixer, going into the USB, being picked up by Audacity, because I have Audacity configured to take the USB input, not the input, the mic input from the sound card of the PC, but the input from the USB. So it allows me to route sound to and from the PC, mix it, and use a tool like Audacity to record. Now you do have to properly configure the software you're using, as I mentioned, correctly, so that you're referencing the right audio input source. So I've found this to be very cool. It gives me a lot of flexibility, a lot more flexibility than you would have if you just have a microphone plugged into the microphone jack of the sound card on the PC. Gives you much more control, I found, ability to mix in multiple devices, and I think you get a much better quality sound doing this method than you do just relying on the PC. So I do highly recommend using a mixer. The Behringer is the first mixer I've ever used. I'm very happy with it. They do make a number of different models. You do have to play around with the levels until you get it right, you know, to the levels that you want. So you're going to have to play around to experiment. I've kind of found, rule of thumb, most of the time, if I put the levels at the midpoint, that's usually sufficient to get a good quality sound. You don't want it too high. Obviously, you don't want it too low. You want it to be just right. And there's a lot of balancing acts to go through initially, but once you get a feel for it, it's not too bad. This has preamp built into it, so it can use condenser mics or standard mics. It does have phantom power, and it's enabled by just the press of a button. So that's my review. I hope you enjoy it, and hope you find using the Behringer to your satisfaction.